Watching the streets of San Francisco through the conceptual frame of Dead or Alive reveals a series deeply concerned with thresholds, not only legal boundaries but emotional ones, because nearly every significant scene unfolds at a point of transition, whether it is a suspect deciding whether to speak, a witness deciding whether to look away, or a detective deciding whether procedure is enough. And this preoccupation gives the show a quiet intensity that distinguishes it from more sensational crime television, since the real drama unfolds not in gunfire but in hesitation, and the camera frequently reinforces this by positioning characters at the edge of frames, partially obscured, visually echoing their moral uncertainty. And this technique is particularly effective in scenes set in offices and apartments where light filters unevenly through blinds, creating a visual metaphor for partial truth. And Stone's presence anchors these moments with a performance defined by restraint. Because he rarely raises his voice and almost never seeks validation, operating instead with the understanding that authority is something negotiated rather than assumed. And this approach makes his interactions with suspects feel less like confrontations and more like uncomfortable mirrors, where people see reflected back at them the consequences of decisions they hoped would remain abstract. And the title Dead or Alive becomes less about physical survival and more about existential accounting, about whether individuals are emotionally engaged with the outcomes of their choices or merely moving through life with plausible deniability. And this theme surfaces repeatedly in scenes involving secondary characters who are not criminals in the traditional sense, but facilitators, enablers, or bystanders, people who signed documents, rented rooms, or chose silence. And the series treats these actions with the same narrative weight as overt crimes, suggesting a moral continuum rather than a binary. And this resonates strongly on a personal level because it mirrors real-world experiences where harm is rarely the result of a single dramatic act, but of accumulated indifference. And the show's refusal to simplify this process is one of its greatest achievements, especially when contrasted with contemporaneous series that relied on clear moral hierarchies. And even action sequences in the streets of San Francisco resist glorification, often ending abruptly or awkwardly, reminding viewers that physical dominance does not equate to moral resolution, and Heller's youthful energy initially seems to challenge this worldview. Yet over time, he too confronts the limits of action, learning that pursuit without reflection risks becoming another form of blindness. And the city itself reinforces this lesson, depicted not as a coherent entity, but as a collection of disconnected spaces that resist total understanding, which aligns with the show's underlying argument that no system can fully contain human behavior, and Dead or Alive therefore functions as both a warning and an invitation, urging viewers to recognize that being alive is not defined by legality but by accountability, and that death can occur long before a body falls if individuals surrender their agency to convenience. And this thematic richness is why the series remains compelling decades later, because it speaks not to a specific crime wave or historical moment, but to a permanent condition of modern urban life where responsibility is diffuse and certainty is rare.